Alright, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to look at relations and functions, also tackle the functions. So we know that relation is a way to map or pair an input with an output. So let's look at how to pair this input with an output. Alright, so when we say the output, you are talking about the y value here. And we say the input, you are talking about the x value. And the y value here is also known as the codomain. And this x value is known as domain. Alright, so with this, we can input some figures here in order to generate the output. It's just like when you send your mails to a grinding machine to grind it for you. When you put the mails there, you get a condo. So that's how it works. So now let's generate something out of this. Now, when x equals 1, then we have y equals 2 times 1 plus 3. So it means that our y is equals to 5. Alright, so this is the output when x equals to 1. You can also have when x equals 2, then our y will be 2 times 1 plus 3. Sorry, 2 times 2 plus 3. Then you have y to be 4 plus 3, which is 7. And let's take this one. When x equals 3, then you have y equals 2 times 3 plus 3, which means that our y is equals to 2, 3, 6 plus 3, that gives you 9. Alright, so with what we have here, we can see that x values are 1, 2, 3. Then we also have y values to be the first value of y, we had 5, then 7, then we have 9. So I can draw a map or map these two values here. So I have my x, then I have my y. I've already explained that this is called, the x is what we call the input or the domain. And the y is the codomain. Alright, so the x values have 1, 2, 3. And the y values, we have 5, 7, and 9. So what is happening here is that when I substitute the 1, my output was 5. Then 2, the output was 7. Then 3, the output was 9. And this is an example of a relation. All right, we have types of relations. We have one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, and many-to-one. Now, when we say one-to-one relation, already I've said that this side is x, which is the domain, and this side is y, which is the codomain. So one-to-one relation is where a member from the domain maps onto a member of the codomain. So 1 to 1. Now let's look at this one. You see there is 0 is mapping onto only one member. So one member from the domain mapping onto only one member in the codomain. This one is also mapping onto 2, and this 2 is mapping onto 4. That's why I call 1-to-1 relation. We also have one-to-many. One-to-many is where one member from the domain is mapping onto 2 or more members from the codomain. So you can see that this 6 is mapping onto 3, at the same time 6. And this 8 is also mapping onto 4, at the same time 8. So a member mapping onto 2 or more members from the codomain. We also have many-to-one. And for the many-to-one, as the name goes, 2 or more members from the domain mapping onto just one member in the codomain. 2 or more members mapping from the domain mapping onto just one member from the codomain. So you can see that 2, 4, and 6 is mapping onto just 2, just a member from what? The codomain. All right. Now let's move on to the last one, which is many-to-many. So for the many-to-many, this type of relation, we are talking about where 2 or more members mapping onto 2 or more members of the codomain. 2 or more members from the domain mapping onto 2 or more members in the codomain. So you could see that this 2 is mapping here, and this 2 is mapping onto this 3, this 2 is mapping onto this 5, this 4 is mapping onto this 4, and that is the meaning of the many-to-many. Okay, so a function is a relation. So function is also a relation in which each element in the domain maps onto one and only one element in the codomain. One and only one element in the codomain. Take note of that. So let's look at this example. Now if I have y equals 2x plus 1, if I set x to be 1, then I'll have y equals 2 into bracket 1 plus 1. So my y becomes 3. When x equals 2, then I'll have y equals 2 multiplied by 2 plus 1. And I have y to be 5. Okay, so when x equals 3, then I have y equals 2 multiplied by 3 plus 1. So y will be 7. Okay. Now, let us list the values of x in the domain, which is x here. We have 1, 2, 3, and y values in the codomain. We have 3, 5, 7. So we can see clearly that this one is mapping to 3, 2 to 5, 3 to 7. Now, per what you have here, and from the definition of a function, we said that it's a relation, and in this one is a relation, and it is one-to-one relation, in which each element in the domain, so this each element in the domain maps onto one and only one element in the codomain. So you could see that 1 is mapping onto 3, 2 is mapping onto 5, 3 is mapping onto 7. And this is one-to-one relation. And one-to-one relation is also a function. So this one can be called as one-to-one function. Okay, now let's also look at this example. So if I have y equals x squared, if I set x to be 1, then I'll have y equals 1 squared, which is 1. If I set x to be -1, then I have y equals -1 squared, which is 1. If I set x to be +2, then I have y equals 2 squared, which is 4. And if I set x to be -2, then I have y to be -2 squared, which is also 4. So now let me try to list the values of x, which is the domain. I have 1, -1, 2, -2. Then I list the values of y, which is the codomain, and I have 1, then 4. Now let's look at something here. What is happening here is that you realize that here, this one is mapping into this. At the same time, this one is also mapping into this. Then we have 2 here, which is also mapping into 4. And the same 2, -2, also mapping to the same +4 here. And this one, from a relation, we said that this one is many to one. So we said that from relation, we know that this one is a many to one relation. And when it comes to function, we are saying that this one is a function because from the definition of the function, we said that a function is a relation in which each element in the domain, so these are the elements we are talking about, in the domain maps onto one and only one element in the codomain. So each of them is mapping onto only one. So this one is mapping onto only this one is mapping onto only this one is mapping onto only this, also mapping onto this. And this is called many to one function. Thank you very much.